It's been a while since I've seen a movie in theaters that felt like true cinema. I'm probably most to blame for this since I've mostly seen movies like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff similar to that genre. As a matter of fact, the first movie I saw in theaters after the pandemic was over was Venom 2, which was, well...
What the hell?
And I'll admit, I don't go to the theaters as much as I probably should, and I really thought I would not miss it during the pandemic because, it's pricey, and, you get so accustomed to being at home, comfortable, and having all these different streaming services. But I changed my mind again when I sat down to watch Venom. Yes, a crappy movie, but the movie theater experience felt so good again after it being so long. And I knew Oppenheimer was going to be a must-see movie for me in theaters for many reasons. First off, it's tough to ignore any movie coming from Christopher Nolan. I'm a huge fan of anything related to World War II and that era, and I just knew Cillian Murphy was going to exceed expectations in his portrayal of Robert Oppenheimer. One of my favorite shows that I watched while stuck at home during the pandemic was Peaky Blinders. Cillian Murphy played the role of Thomas Shelby, and he did a fantastic job. His performance in that show is why I was so excited to see him in Oppenheimer. Once I learned in the trailers and in interviews that the movie was going to focus a lot on Oppenheimer's perspective and explore his mindset throughout all of this, then I knew it was going to be good. Peaky Blinders also explored the mindset of Thomas Shelby, not only because of everything going on in the show, but it also focuses a lot on some stuff that happens before the show takes place, such as Thomas being in World War I and coming home and dealing with PTSD. Thomas has nightmares, and he continuously is haunted by memories of the war as he deals with new conflicts and other situations that are stressful throughout the series. Cillian Murphy's tremendous acting made it a successful and binge-worthy psychological thriller. Cillian carried that performance into this movie, and it was spectacular. So today, I want to talk about why Oppenheimer is one of the greatest 3-hour movies I've ever seen. Simply put, Oppenheimer is an intense biographical thriller film that tells the story of Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb. The movie features an explosive cast. Murphy as Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt, who plays Oppenheimer's wife, Robert Downey Jr., who plays Louis Strauss, Matt Damon stars as General Leslie Groves. The ensemble cast is just as good as well, featuring Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Gary Oldman, Kenneth Branagh, and Alden Ehrenreich. The story takes place in a non-linear structure. It bounces around the timeline quite a bit. The story alternates between Oppenheimer's life as he studies at Cambridge and leads all the way up to Los Alamos, the town that was built to house the entire personnel that was working on the bomb. The other parts of the story focus on his 1954 security hearing and Strauss's confirmation hearing for a cabinet position in President Eisenhower's staff. I don't have much to critique in this movie, and perhaps the one and only thing that kind of bothers me in the movie is that it never indicates what time period you are in. You do eventually catch on, and it doesn't really take that long, but I think it would serve many people like myself who aren't very familiar with all of these events that are covered in the movie and all these people. I think it would help us understand what's going on and when it's happening. I think a simple flash of text on the screen would have helped a bit to know what exactly is going on and, the date, what's the time period here. But I do appreciate how it covers all the bases of Oppenheimer's life, because his story is not just, oh, he built the first nuclear bomb. The guy lived an interesting life before and after that. He slept around with multiple women, and he was connected to the Communist Party. The movie portrays him as somebody who checked out the communist meetings, had some family and friends that were involved, but he supposedly never joined. He was just there to listen to other ideas. Being a communist was frowned upon in those days, and especially in the 1950s when there was a push to condemn anybody with ties to communism, and that included Oppenheimer himself. So, one part of the movie focuses on his life as a young theoretical physicist who eventually gets recruited by General Leslie Groves to lead the Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer was motivated at first to get involved and build something to use against the Nazis because he was Jewish, and it was known that they possibly had their own nuclear program underway as well. I really enjoyed the fact that this movie straight up just told the story. It showed us everything that took place. There was no propaganda or anything that pushed one side or the other on the nuclear bomb debate. the story was so interesting that I actually went home and I spent quite a bit of time doing research. It's nice to watch a movie that wasn't politically motivated, and regardless, it's good to research and educate yourself in more than one area, more than one article, more than one movie, or also more than one news channel. People still don't seem to understand that today with any topic or event. That's a rant for another type of video. So what makes this movie so interesting? Well, I've already discussed how much I like Cillian Murphy's acting in psychological thrillers, and I did give credit to the rest of the cast. But there were a lot of elements that made this movie so good, and it was truly one of the few movies to keep me entertained for the entire 3 hours. Pacing and dialogue was on point. The acting, like I said, was great, but so was the dialogue. No, you don't become a nuclear physicist after watching this, but I felt like I could understand and follow enough of what was going on in terms of the research and terminology used, of all the scientific things based around building a bomb like this. If it got too deep, then the audience would be very confused and get distracted on the science behind it all and focus less on the entire story. And most importantly, the psychological journey you take through the mind of Oppenheimer. There were multiple times throughout this movie where Nolan would put us directly into the mind of Oppenheimer, and usually we would be put in his mind during times where he was dealing with something stressful. Some of the greatest examples of this is anytime he thought about the bomb and how it could change the world, and he was having second thoughts and regrets even after the events of everything that happened. The camera would focus and zoom in on Oppenheimer's concerned face. Both the visuals and the audio effects were great. You could hear sound effects like stomping, pounding, explosions, fire, and even a Geiger counter. And then it was cool to find out that practical effects were used throughout the entire movie. They used fish tanks and put other materials in there and did basically like science experiments and made explosions and stuff. Like they actually made a bomb too. Like none of this was CGI stuff. I don't really know how they explain it all, but it was actually cool to see actual explosions and flashes of lights being used rather than always doing computer-generated stuff. It really is refreshing to see a modern-day movie not focus on CGI. They could have easily have done it, obviously, with, the complexity of building a bomb and all these other scientific visualizations they give in the movie, but hey, they did the work, and I think that was awesome. And like I said, they actually made a bomb that was fueled by petroleum rather than atomic energy, and we all know why that was the case. The cinematic storytelling and visual effects were not only cool, but I really think they did help you understand which time period you were in and what character's perspective you are now following in that moment. For example, the screen would turn to black and white whenever Robert Downey Jr.'s character was the focus. The film crew also played around with a few more things in regards to shooting, with different shutter speeds, color exposures, and negative effects. So when you combine Cillian Murphy's acting with the practical effects and creative camera work, bam, it made for a great experience. Many people get turned off at the idea of spending 3 hours at the theater, but this movie is worth it. It almost seems like Nolan strategically placed psychological thriller moments in certain spots to grab the audience attention again. Perhaps the best moment of the movie is also one of the most important moments in regards to keeping people entertained. Around the 2-hour mark, they finally got to test the bomb. The Trinity Test is what it was called. In this scene, you experience the entire countdown until the bomb is set off, and it is extremely intense. And again, it's another great moment for Cillian as he portrays Oppenheimer, who's about to realize just how real this bomb is about to become. Heck, I was even feeling some kind of anxiety waiting, even though I already knew the spoilers to this practically. I think the scene serves a great purpose by once again capturing the audience for that final act of the movie, which then focuses on Oppenheimer experiencing regret and actually campaigning against the use of the nuclear project and making more of these bombs in the future. Once again, I think this movie does a good job of telling it like it is without pushing one side or the other. The movie is really good at presenting the dilemma that these people faced: to use the bomb or to not use the bomb. You almost kind of feel bad for Oppenheimer as he has doubts of using the bomb and then the eventual guilt he feels once the 2 bombs were dropped on Japan. This is just a really good movie that tells the story in a pretty accurate way. Again, you want to, know the truth, go do the research, go look up some things. I did, and it seems like this movie is pretty accurate based on a lot of the stuff that's out there. And also, it doesn't feel like a futuristic movie in a good way, thanks to the heavy focus on practical effects rather than the use of CGI. And I'll just say it one more time, there was phenomenal acting from the entire cast. This isn't a World War II movie where you got D-Day or battles and stuff going on. This is literally what was happening back at home, and the normal average people that actually built the most destructive weapon known to mankind and still heavily feared to this day. This is one of the best 3-hour movies I have ever seen, and I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. If you saw the movie, then let me know what you think in the comments. Please support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. You can also find me on Twitter and TikTok. Twitter at analyzethis_YT and TikTok at analyzethis54_YT. I highly recommend checking out the TikTok and get involved in the comment sections where there's a lot of great discussion based off of the clips that I pull from my videos and put on there. Also, I'm on Spotify if you want to listen to the audio version of my content under Analyze This Podcast. Thanks again for watching, and take care.